Sharon, I'm so glad to have the chance to talk with you today. It's always such a delight. And tell me, you've been with Fortuna for quite a while, and you had a long history of coaching before that. Why are you so passionate about coaching?
It's so much fun. I think the clients we attract, they're so diverse, they're so smart, they're so accomplished. And I feel that the piece that really gets me jazzed, what I get really excited about, is helping them along the process, though, of introspection, which is really what the top MBA programs are looking for in applicants. Just having these moments where they really get to think with clarity and with focus about what they want to do, why they're pursuing this degree, helping to facilitate that. It's just really rewarding and it's really fun too.
And we've talked about that before, like how it's just wonderful to sort of see this journey unfold. And you're walking with someone in the path, and then they light bulb goes off, and not only do they have success, but they have this sense of like, yeah, I'm figuring it out.
Exactly, exactly. And we've talked about this too. I am cross certified in Clifton Strengths, which is an assessment that helps get at just your talents, your affinities, and so also I do use that in my practice with clients to help tease that out a little bit more to help them with that introspection piece. And I find that is a really useful tool to help them in that kind of path of self discovery. I do feel, again, speaking to the fact that many of our clients are already pretty well accomplished in their own right. But I think that a lot of us just don't take that moment to step back a little bit and really have a kind of a thoughtful inner conversation about, okay, I've done this, but what's next? And so I think
Right.
helping them figure out that what's next is really rewarding, what I'm passionate about.
What do you think is your coaching superpower? I know it's hard to narrow it down, but if there's one thing that you think you bring, I mean, I personally love your incredible sense of like depth and organization, but what do you think is your coaching superpower?
I think, gosh, I feel like I say this all the time with my clients, but good storytelling is what
Mhm.
is rewarded in the
Mhm.
application process. And I think for a lot of our clients, most of them are good writers, but what they tend to write at work is pretty cut and dried,
Mhm.
kind of
Mhm.
just cutting right to the facts, not a lot about the why, but really the what, especially those who we work with who have engineering backgrounds, finance backgrounds, things like that. So I think being able to work with them on telling a story in a way that's really vivid, that really helps them connect with the person who's reading them on the
Mhm.
other side. I like to remind them, and a lot of that, sometimes they're not aware of this, but I remember it, and you probably do too, in the height of reading, my goodness, in any season, we would read hundreds, if not thousands, of applications. I mean, I
Right.
remember one cycle at Haas, I definitely read at least 2,500 applications in a cycle. And so knowing that the person on the other side of the table is really looking to make a connection with you on
Yes.
paper, finding the ways and means to do that with our clients is something that I think is a superpower that I have. I really like to hear their unique, one of a kind stories and help tease that out a bit more
Right.
so that they really do elicit some sort of emotional connection to the person who's reading them on the other side of the table. And a note about that too is I still do sit on an admissions committee for a competitive program at the University of California, San Francisco. So I like that I'm straddling kind of both sides of the table. I'm helping
Right.
to coach, but I'm also still reviewing applications, and that keeps that part of my brain really fresh in terms of thinking about what do I read on the other side as something
Right.
that's a really compelling application.
And it's not so much, a lot of students say, well, what's the formula? Like, there's not a formula. It's just putting yourself into it, that authenticity, and a story that you remember,
Right,
like,
right.
something that really stays with you. And we've all had those. And I think that as a coaching ability is so important,
We
and
want
really the
to
core of what we
we
do.
want to help our clients write essays that end up being the fodder for dinner table conversation
Yes,
on the other side.
exactly.
And there's
Exactly.
many times I'm sure my husband is like, "Oh my gosh, like what happened? What did they write about? That's so interesting." And so being able to help our clients, help my clients write those kinds of essays that really, like I said, elicit some sort of emotion is, I think, something that I have as a superpower. And it's really fun. And I keep saying it's really fun, it's really rewarding, but this
Mm,
should be an enjoyable process.
right.
I think that it's important to have fit calls to make sure that you find a coach with whom you're really going to
Mhm.
connect with and bond with, because there has to be also a lot of trust.
Of
There's things
course.
that come out of the essay writing process that can be very moving. And so I think just making sure that you have that relationship is really important too.
Um, you've had so many interesting engagements over the years. So I hesitate to ask about your favorite success story, but can you tell me about a student story that really struck you and you were great, that the outcome was a great one for the student?
I mean, I feel fortunate. I'm going to knock wood because I'm very superstitious, but
Okay.
I just feel so fortunate that I've had a lot of clients who have been successful. Um, I think maybe for me, I'm thinking about two people in particular. One person who had worked with a different coaching firm and received nothing, no
Mhm.
no invitations to interview. When we started to work together, I could sense that their confidence was at a low, like, okay, here
Sure.
I go again. And so
Yeah.
in using some of the tools like Clifton Strengths and going through the strategic questionnaire that we use at Fortuna and having a really in-depth conversation before we even started the writing process was really a different approach for them. And then what came out were some really interesting, touching, moving essays about things that this person never thought that they would write about.
Right.
And at the end of the day, they ended up receiving multiple offers at places like
Mhm.
Booth, at Haas, a full ride at Duke, NYU. And so very, very successful. And also, again, they were on this background of, their background was very successful, but again, not a lot of time for introspection. So I think that they felt like they kind of won on two levels. They gained admission into
Right.
top programs and they're very happy with where they are. They are now a second year student at Haas, but also they had the benefit too of this introspective piece, which is something that
Mhm.
they hadn't even really considered would be part of the process. So they really benefited from that. And then I'm also thinking about another client who initially was dinged right away from a place that they had spent a lot of time researching and investing in that
Mhm.
community. And I know that it felt, it hurts your self-esteem, it hurts your
Sure.
confidence. And, we took a step back and we revisited their school list. And I encouraged that person to, what? Cast a wider net. I think you're fantastic. I think that school,
Right.
it's their loss, but there is a
Right.
program
Why
out there
not
that's going to be
broaden,
a fit for
broaden,
you.
broaden your list, broaden your
Well, right.
trajectory? Yeah.
And now they're a first year student at Wharton, which
Mhm.
wasn't even originally on their list. So I think
Yeah.
that having, it's not that we're just coaches. I also think in a big way we're also cheerleaders.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that I also have a lot of pleasure in being kind of that rah rah
Yeah.
for clients when
It's
they're feeling down
true.
a little bit, because it's an emotional roller coaster. It really is. And so I think finding someone who's going to support you and be a cheerleader, and I'm known for sending, silly memes and things like that, just to keep people's spirits up during the process. I think that's really important as well.
And I agree with you. We do get very invested in the lives of our students, and I love to do jumping up and down dance parties in my kitchen when I hear good news. But we do, we're a small firm on purpose, right? Like we really like to have those relationships with the students that we support.
Well, and
Um,
I wanted to say something on that though too. I mean, you and I and many of us on the team, we've been doing this for well over 20 years,
yeah.
25 years. I can't believe I'm nearing 30 years.
It's hard to believe.
Obviously, I started when I was 5.
You were very early. You were
But
a
I think
prodigy.
that none of us are arrogant about our expertise or what we
Yeah.
do. And I love the fact that I have this extensive network to lean on. There was early on when I first started working with Fortuna, I had some questions about, geez, help me figure out this MIT cover letter, because
Right.
it's
It's a
definitely an anomaly in the pool. And being able to send a message within our Fortuna coaching hive and have Brittany weigh in and some of the other coaches weigh in with their experiences is just phenomenal. And I love that I'm kind of the go-to person for Haas, and I enjoy
yeah.
that.
Yeah, we like to run everything by you, and also because of your other talents with Clifton Strengths, with career coaching, and so I agree with you
And
that
my
that's
bizarre calendaring habit.
and your calendaring habits, which I referred to earlier. And if you want to know what I'm hearing about, what I'm talking about, talk to Sharon. Um, what do you think is a good piece of advice for admissions candidates? Something that you've kind of gone back to time and again.
I think, we probably are all saying it, but I think the search for authenticity,
Mhm.
I think that, we don't want to, I think sometimes clients make the mistake of writing what they think an admissions committee wants to hear
Sure,
versus
sure.
something that is really and truly from their heart. And that's what gains you an invitation to
Mhm.
interview if the reader on the other side really gets a sense of
Right.
who you are authentically and genuinely,
Mhm.
and what your walk has been through life
True. And
thus far.
sometimes
And
it's really messy. I mean, I think that that's the expectation is that students feel, oh, it has to be all buttoned up and it has to make sense. But life is not like that, and the reason you're going to business school is to understand and explore.
right.
So I think that all of that, if you think about it like a big stew and you're putting in all these different ingredients and, it might come out differently one day than it does on the next, but that's the beauty of it is all of this stuff coming together for that
Well, and
authenticity.
definitely too, programs want to see clients or candidates who have resiliency, people who have overcome hardships. I mean, Haas has a whole essay
Sure.
about that now in terms of, an optional essay if you want to talk about overcoming any hardships. And so I think that there's much to say on that as well, not just to talk about where we've been successful, but where we have fallen, but we've picked ourselves up and dusted ourselves off and kept moving forward.
So, Sharon, is there anything else you wanted to share about your engagement with students or how you like to approach things?
I think that I tend to be pretty OCD, but in a good way.
I would agree. Yes.
Sort of alluded to this. I have, gosh, I put it away for the season, but I have this huge whiteboard that I use that I cordon off little squares for all of my clients, and pretty much every other day I'm updating it to make sure that I know where everybody is in the process. And I also heavily use calendaring systems to make sure that my clients know what their deliverable is that week.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
also, I really strive to make sure that we hit the submit button, or my client hits the submit button a few days before
Oh,
deadline,
yes,
just so they
indeedy.
can
Oh, yes.
breathe a little bit. And
Yes.
also, we know invariably it happens that, a system will crash because it's
Mhm.
overloaded with people trying to hit the submit button at 11:59 p.m. on a deadline. And thankfully,
True.
my clients are sitting back pretty, and they're happy that they were able to submit in a little bit of a more
I
timely.
could not agree with you more. When I was at Wharton, we had an issue with a state senator who was trying to submit at 11:59 for his letter of recommendation. And I'm like, I know you're a state senator, but really?
I know.
So, yes, a day or two buys you a lot of grace in your personal life, in your relationship with others. It's like, taking a deep breath is always a good thing.
Exactly.
Sharon, it has been such a pleasure to talk with you. You just make me smile, and this was super fun. So thank you so much for your time,
Thank you.
and we look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Awesome. Thanks,
Great.
Judith.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.